Well, hello. Every gal needs a cowboy hat.
Scanning the room, you look for a familiar face. Everyone is a stranger. Your heart's racing, you feel nauseous. New plan. You meet 4 new people. Okay, 3. 2? You can handle 2. And then you think, I hate this. This just feels so fake. And before you talk to even 1 new person, you're looking for the nearest exit.
Okay. Crazy. Yo, who invited this chick?
My heart races when I walk into a room full of strangers too. Except it's not anxiety, it's excitement. I'm not thinking networking quota. I'm thinking, look at all these stories. And I get so pumped about talking to people that I don't know.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. Well, today we are definitely going to be talking about stories. And as you know, in the world of manufacturing, sometimes people in this area find it difficult to both tell and share their story. So that's where I come in with my 3-step process of sign up, suit up, and show up, and using this one tool, curiosity. And the guest we have today is definitely going to be helping us unpack and look into how we can get more curious about the world of manufacturing and marketing and how it can help sales. We all know the issue at hand is how can we make those 2 relationships, work better together. And as a recovering journalist, I have found that the more that we can delve into asking questions and telling more stories, that is when we can get to the exciting times of uncovering all the wonderful things in manufacturing. So my name is Gail Robertson. I am Chief Curiosity Officer at GailNow. And I'd like to now welcome our very special guest, who is someone that I have followed, watched, listened to, and she is someone who knows how to show up in manufacturing. So welcome, Allison DeFord. Woohoo! Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I am happy to have you here as well, because you have been someone that I have been following. And I'm just going to, there we go, get my logo up there. Got to get the brand up, right?
Yeah.
So before we start, you were with Felt Marketing, and you are also part of Manufacturing Masters. So for everybody tuned in today, I thought maybe you can just explain a bit about that, because that is really key, that you are a manufacturing master. And I think for anyone that's tuned in today listening, they need to lean in and listen for some tips, for some ideas, for some strategies, because we both know it works. Marketing works when you know how to do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
So over to you, Allison.
Well, thank you. No, I'm really excited to be part of Manufacturing Masters. Darren Mitchell is an amazing manufacturer that sold his business after 26 years. And he realized that, most manufacturers have many things in common. They often feel alone. They need to know a lot of shit that they don't maybe know. And they don't always teach you all of that in school. And it can feel like, well, where do I turn? Who do I hire? Who can I trust? So he came up with the brilliant idea of like a Netflix for manufacturing, and created this on-demand education and best practices platform, and asked me to be a marketing subject matter expert. And we also had the great opportunity at Felt to help him name the company, the brand, and build the identity and the brand. And I'm also really excited to be a brand ambassador, because I believe in it so much. And so manufacturing associations I'm working with them to help them subscribe their members and just really elevate their value, because what they do is so incredibly important, state to state and across the nation. So I'm really excited about that. And there are a myriad, there are over 100 experts there who no fluff, 5 to 10-minute videos where you can learn anything you could possibly think of in manufacturing. So the tagline is, it's everything they never taught you in school.
Wow. I was just talking to someone about that today, about how much value there is in finding things online, joining things like Manufacturing Masters to get information, because a lot of times the education system too, just it hasn't kept up with what's happening. Manufacturing has been moving pretty quickly. Before we go further, we do have a lot of comments coming in. Our studio audience is here dropping some comments, so we'll go bring in some greetings. So to welcome you too, because we have quite a list of attendees today. And speaking of associations, we do have Janine Lasseline Berglund saying hello. Janine is the president of Canadian Association of Mold Makers and Automate Canada. Welcome, Janine. And speaking of like dynamic organizations that are doing amazing things here in Canada, yeah, that's and I'm on, full disclosure, I'm on the board of the Canadian Association of Mold Makers, so as a director. So we have signed, so that's Team Canada. Then we have Whitney is here. Good afternoon from Texas. Woo, got Texas coming in. Hello, Whitney. And the one, the only, Damon Pastuca, who I just saw when I was out in Seattle. Hello, Damon, who we'll be talking about this. I love his statement. You want to be the red M&M in the bowl of green. So
that sounds like Damon.
That sounds like David. Margot, hello, Margot. Welcome. Cargo Margot, hello. Yes, thank you. I just was out. Actually, the Pacific Northwest Aerospace Alliance invited me out as a guest speaker, and a lot of it was about that title. So talking about, how to own curiosity to help with marketing as well and showing up. Yes, Bonnie's here. Hello, Bonnie. Gail and Wonder Woman Allison. Yes. Hello. And Bonnie's going to be a guest as well. So stay tuned for that.
Nice. Ooh, that'll be a good one.
Yes. Oh, yeah. She is a dynamo. There's someone who shows up too, knows how to show, not just tell. Mike Hicks, greetings. Now, Mike is also on the board of Canadian Association of Mold Makers and going to be getting ready for a big golf tournament Sunday. Janine sending you a welcome. And we have Valerie says, yay, Allison.
Oh, I love Valerie. Hi, Valerie.
Yeah, Valerie. She is amazing. Know her through USA Manufacturing Hour, a great Twitter chat for anybody listening in that's not part of it. Yes. We have, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so Janine also said, we love Darren Mitchell. So there's a shout out to Darren. I'm going to skip over. There's a bit of just some networking going on in the comments, but yes, Whitney, I think it is going to be good. Brian is, good afternoon. Brian is from Cavalier Tool, a sales manager. So Brian, this show will be for you because you're going to hear from a manufacturing master, not just me. Then we have hello from Chicago, Cynthia. Hello, Cynthia. Welcome. Elizabeth no, you're not late, Elizabeth. Perfect timing. Elizabeth has Perco Marketing here locally in Windsor, Essex. So Janine says, yep, you and her are already connected. We have your wealth of knowledge. Got it. Thanks. And Inger's here as well saying hello. Okay. Well, Allison, wow, we got comments just streaming in. So please, everyone, continue to network in the comments. This is where magic can really happen. I often suggest to people, when you're coming out to a show, connect with other people in the comments, because you're going to find other people, as Allison will be mentioning, I'm sure later, in your tribe. These are the people that, if you're all here today, you probably have some common goals and can help each other out as well. So Allison, I also know you from the Manufacturing Out Loud podcast. Can you talk? Let's bring in now. He hasn't popped in yet. I bet you he will stop by at some point. The one, the only manufacturing unicorn. Ray Bianco, who was also on my show previously. How did that come about, the podcast? And is there news about what's on the horizon? Anything you can share?
Yes. Ray and I befriended each other through LinkedIn. I am a huge LinkedIn user. I have been since way before it was cool. And people said, what in the hell are you doing on, what is that? So I've been around for a long time, and I have built this amazing tribe, and I'm so grateful just to know all of you and be part of it. And so Ray and we started communicating, and we had this like-minded, I guess, view. And I dubbed him the unicorn. And he said, "Wow, I don't understand." And I said, "I've never met anybody like you who was a manufacturing executive who understands how to bridge the gap between sales, marketing, and operations." And that's how that came about. And so we kept having these change the world conversations. And I said, dude, we need to start a podcast. Like, we need to get these conversations out and invite people in. And he said, okay, do you know how to start a podcast? And I said, no, but I will figure it out. And so we did. That was 2 years ago. And I think we're near 70 episodes altogether, including our Game Changer series. And we're very excited to announce that we are going to be working with Manufacturing Masters to transition our podcast into the Manufacturing Masters podcast.
Wow, you heard it here on Show Up with Gail Now. Ooh.
So yeah, first time that's crossed my lips in a public setting, but we're really excited. There's just so much that we can do to invite manufacturers in to tell their story, because like you, I'm a huge fan of story and of being curious and of growth. So the more we can learn from each other, God, I think there's just nothing better. So that's some exciting news on the.
That is. So I was wondering, I knew something was percolating. I did not know. So this is my first time hearing it. And that's extremely exciting, because talking about the branding, and what I love about that story too, is that, you know, you just decided to start. And a lot of times people wait until everything's perfect, everything lined up. And often the best things happen when you dive in and start, because if you wait until it's the right time, often things will pass you by as well.
Yep.
So,
well, truly, that was an incredibly difficult year for me. And Ray and I were, we decided to, I said, you know, Ray, this is the year I'm doing shit that scares me. And he said, I'm in. And so we figured it out, you know, and the whole premise was, it's funny because in the beginning I thought people are going to be so excited to hear what we have to say. And what I learned very quickly about being a host was the best host brings out the best in the person that you're interviewing. And so it was a very eye-opening epiphany that we had. Yeah.
I just put that up, do shit that scares you, because I think we hold back. Again, when I was giving my talk to the women in aerospace, it's amazing what stood out for a lot of the women that came up and shared stories with me after. And they all have amazing stories, but there is this fear. And I asked at one point, I said, how many people here have failed? The hands all went up in the room, everybody. So I said, okay, we all have failed. So we can kind of remove that off the table now, because failure is part of life, and it's also part of growth, right? Because if you're not, I always figure if I'm not failing enough, or if I haven't done, then I'm probably not working at it enough. So
yep, for sure.
Yeah. So that is great. Now, I know a lot of people listening into will want to get to the meat of things as well, because you have some amazing backstories. Before we get into the sort of the details and maybe talk about some specifics, I know your backstory is really interesting as well. So I'd like, because it started with a spirograph. And
you did your homework.
I love that, because I remember having one of them, but I didn't go into design, but you went into design. And this is what's really key about what I call connecting the dots. And you started by knowing you had to connect the dots. And we talked about this. What we have in common is definitely our curious minds, because we are often asking, why is that? What should I? So why don't you maybe give that backstory? Because I think it's telling about why we all need to maybe ask why.
Yes. Well, and I think my story parlays into the work that we do with clients, and I'm pretty positive it aligns with the work you do with your clients as well. I was always that weird graphic designer who, when somebody would come to me and say, I worked for a big printer back in way in the beginning, and people would come in and they would say, okay, I want to develop this logo. And they start talking to me about, 65 different colors, and I wanted to do this. And I always said, hold up, why? And they looked at me like, well, what do you mean? I need this logo. And I said, okay, who's it for? Well, is green going to resonate with them? Are 65 different colors going to resonate with them? So I was always asking questions. And it's funny because after a while, I would have people come in and they'd say, I don't want to work with anybody else. I want to work with you. And by the way, if you ever leave here, please call me, because I'd rather pay you than and so just this stuff kept happening. And so it parlayed into starting my own business in 94, and marketing just became this natural progression over time through experience, like baptism by fire and 10,000 hours, right, of blood, sweat, tears, and learning and being creative and curious. So that's what I help clients do to this day is, design is the way to bring the idea to life, to make it look good, to make it appealing to people. But marketing, and I learned this from, I can't remember if it was Seth Godin or Bernadette Jiwa. Marketing is not done at people. It's done for people and on behalf of them. And I just love that. And so when that's your mindset as a business or brand or, whatever, hopefully you're a business that has a brand, people will be drawn to you because you are in this for them. And you're inviting them into a story, not shouting at them and interrupting them.
The power of story. And you came from design. And so my background is actually, I was a journalist, or I was a reporter, and moved into into marketing. And you're right. It's about asking the why. So instead of just doing as we're told, because there's people, if you want that, there are people out there that if you tell them to paint this pink with purple polka dots, they will do that. But I found it was always good to say, well, why are we doing that? And is that going to answer what the audience, because we're not doing it for ourselves. And I often say that with writing. I go, we're not writing it for you, the client. We're writing it for the person reading it.
Yeah.
And emails, I find, that's another area of just like, ouch, because we get so many emails now that you better, if you're going to send an email, you better be giving me some information or something of value, because there's so much,
That's rampant too in manufacturing, and thus I see such a huge need and such an opportunity for them manufacturers to capitalize on a new way of communicating, because it's so easy. I use this picture in presentations quite a bit. If Kurt Anderson, I'm not sure if he's on here, but he would start laughing. And it's this little boy looking at his own navel, and like making it talk and do these things. And I got this idea from my cousins that I grew up with. I was always jealous that I couldn't run around with my shirt off growing up in the, humid Indiana summer, and they could, but they were just so fascinated with their own navel, with their own selves. And I thought, oh my God, that's what we do, right? We're so busy looking at our own navel, and it's all about me. And that's what I call the wee-wee syndrome. So if you look through your website of the majority of manufacturers, you will find the word we 100 times more than you find the word you. If you get, look at the emails that you get from all sorts of people today. It's, hi, tap, tap, didn't want to, you don't know me, but I'm trying to sell you this thing. And it's a huge turnoff. So if we can flip the script and make it about the person that you are communicating with, you're going to get a lot farther faster.
I'm laughing in my head. I got to stop. I have another picture in my head. You sure it was the navel?
Well, that among other things.
This is the clean version of Gail. The dark web will have the part 2.
Parental advisory.
Parental advisory in effect. So let's go to, while we're on this topic, because this is something you're known for, is that idea of like doing that check on your website, doing the check on the email, always for the wee, because it is about, how to get away from only what we're interested in. Do you have any stories where you've actually transformed any websites or worked with a client, anything that for people listening out there that goes, yeah, but I don't know, does that really work? Or anything in particular that stands out that you could share?
Yeah, I have several examples, but one, I won't bore people with, a ton of stories, but one that is one of my favorites to this day is Mission Rubber. They are a coupling manufacturer in Corona, California. And you think, couplings, that's not exciting. Well, they aren't until they are. And what was really exciting to work with this company and take their website, I called it your grandmother's website. And this is no offense to them. Like, we've all been there. So we've all had the older website. Mine right now, we're working on ours because it's long overdue. So don't send me hate mail, anybody. But they were in dire need we helped them rebrand. And then we said, okay, your website is your brand 24/7, 365. We have got to give it an overhaul. So it went from being a website that was all about them. Here's our history. Here's all of our products. Here are long, convoluted product descriptions that are redundant and confusing, and there was no cohesion. And we said, let's talk about what we could do for people. And they said, okay, great. Well, we're not sure. And I said, no problem. Let's ask them. So first of all, you've got to ask your customers and know your audience and build those personas and put a face, name it, Alan the architect, and understand what's important to him, or Alana, what's important to her. What's a day in their life like? And what was important 3 years ago or 1 year ago, very different today. And I think the mistake that we all make is we do too much assuming, and we all know what happens when you do that, versus asking. So people say, well, I don't want to bother them. Well, they're busy. Trust me, if you ask and say, this is why I want to know, so I can make this a better experience for you. Trust me, get out your notebook, because the nuggets are going to start falling. So anyway, what we did for them was we took this website that was all about them and we transformed it into a dynamic, deep resource that covers everything from, this is stuff that, again, it's always there. It's right under your nose, but you can't see it, and you never thought to share it. So it's got everything from, you name it, sustainability, cradle to cradle, explaining really dynamic illustrations of the parts, and not just, well, this is this super thick rubber and this stainless steel. What does it do? How does it help me do my job better? It changed everything. And so, of course, their visitors just catapulted in, from this many steady visitors a month to thousands. And Max Adapter was a product that we helped name. And it was on back order within 3 months of launching. And I think part of these results are because we took the time up front to slow down before we speed up, and to really understand, who is this for? So what's in it for them? You've always got to answer this, whether it's an email or a social post or anything. What's in it for them? Why should they buy this thing? And why should they buy it from you?
Yeah.
So those are the 3 questions that we always try to answer, to make sure that we're leading with you, the person that this is for or on behalf of.
And often, here's what I find too, and I think we likely agree on this, is that keeping it a lot simpler, because a lot of times people say, oh, and I hear this all the time, well, everybody does that. And I go, yeah, everybody may be doing it, but everybody's not talking about it. Everybody's not explaining it. And I think often there's potential to start there. And then what is it that makes, what do you add to that, your special sauce, basically, right? And the other thing is getting people just to post things that they're doing, like, again, keeping it simple. I've seen the best engagement on posts where someone does, a shorter video, or they tell a short story of something that just happened. And don't overthink it.
Simple and on the fly can work really well.
Yeah.
And based on what you just said, so true. We work with a wonderful company called Papco Gypsum. And when we started doing strategic work in the beginning, we looked at their unique value proposition and we said, let's take a look at what you guys do better than anybody else when it comes to drywall and helping contractors and architects. And so we dug deep and we came back to them and we said, you guys make it easy. And I heard everyone was silent. And they said, that's it? And I said, yes. No one else is talking about making it easy. You need to own that, because that word came out of voice of customer surveys that they had done.
Yeah.
It came out of conversations with salespeople, which is key. Your salespeople, you guys are the genius boots on the ground. You have all the stories. So sales has to be included in marketing, because that's what we're here for, is to support you. But it's, and that's why I loved it so much, is that nobody else was talking about it, but these folks are doing it, and they're making it easy at every step in the process. So it doesn't have to be some long, convoluted mission statement or promise. It's got to be something that you can back up, and it's got to be something memorable that's meaningful to people. So
yeah. No, that's great. That's great advice. And one of the things too that we were just talking about earlier, and I was listening to a podcast on this, was that also the emotional connection to a brand, which isn't just in consumer products. And I hear this all the time in manufacturing. Well, it's different in the consumer world. It's not like that in the business. What's that?
We're B2B.
We're B2B. Yes, B2B. So this is something maybe that you could give another example, if you have an example. Like, one of the things I heard is that, they keep, a lot of times it's just, we're different. They want to believe that they're somehow different, that there's a line when it comes to search. There's a line when it comes to marketing. All of a sudden, like a consumer product, people think differently than when they're online for a business product. And what I've seen is that when people are online, they're online searching, like for whatever things are coming up. And so what are your thoughts on that? B2B is different than B2C. Allison, over to you.
Well, Gail.
Story at 11.
The lines have been blurred, plain and simple. I'm certainly not the first person to say that or to recognize it. It's been going on for years. And I think it's just taking some industries a far longer time to catch up, to understand that that's what's happening. And because, honest to God, and we all know this as marketers, things are changing at the speed of culture. So if your marketing efforts to connect with and support your salespeople, if you're not keeping up and changing, evolving at the speed of culture to keep pace with your customers and actually stay a step ahead of them, right? You need to guide them and show them this is where you need to go. This is where you could go. That whole skating to where the puck will be. It can be overwhelming. And I think that's where people get caught up when they say, well, we're not B2C. It's a way to dismiss, right? And if you can dismiss or deflect, then you don't have to be responsible. We're just going to keep doing these things we've always done because it's comfortable. It's familiar. Trust me, I can be an old school gal. Okay. I've been resistant to upgrading to different operating systems, to upgrading to new phones and so people in my life in the past are laughing right now if they would hear this and say, oh yeah. But the thing I know is this: when you take that risk, it's okay to do shit that scares you. There's no guarantee. But like you say, you got to show up and at least try. So what's the worst thing that could happen? You know, I'm never going to suggest to a client, we need to run out and spend $1 million on advertising to do this or to this audience. No. You got to, it's a build. It's a slow build.
Yeah.
And I think the other misconception with social media, for example, I have heard for 8+ years, our people aren't on social media. I heard the same thing when websites 20 years ago. And I said, you guys need a website. No, contractors aren't. They're not online. And I said, yeah, they actually are. And if they're not, they will be.
Yes.
And I had people go, yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Well, guess what? Those are the people that play catch up. And then you're scrambling, right? So take advantage of when somebody tells you, like, look around, you know, if marketing wasn't necessary, and why would John Deere, why would Caterpillar, why would any of these manufacturers spend money, big money, because they're big companies, on marketing? Everybody already knows them. Those people aren't searching online. And like you said, yeah, they are. And the thing that I think we need to all realize, and I think most of the people that are on this today know this, human beings are human beings. So if I'm a consumer of a good or, you know, a product, I'm still a human being. I still have desires, the same as somebody who's a business seeking a good or service. There isn't any difference. Now, there may be a different way that you speak with them. You may, you know, use pop culture references a little differently. You may not be quite as relaxed. There are lots of different nuances that I think you need to pay attention to, but people are people, and it's a known fact that they're making purchasing decisions 90% of the time based on emotion.
Yes.
And it's like, whoop, hold up. Why are we spending all these years and all this time speaking to the rational brain?
Yeah.
That's not the part that makes the decision. It's just the part that backs it up.
Okay.
So I always say, if you want to help people become seen, heard, and felt. If you're felt, there's that emotional connection. It makes sales easier. And it's also more genuine, which I'm a huge fan of. So,
you know, I was just listening to this podcast where they were giving all sorts of stats on this and backing up how people purchase. And it's funny because we know this, and yet people still want to go back to the rational, but we're going to go through these points. And one example they gave, which is so true, they said, it makes no sense. People will go buy the name brand Tylenol versus the store brand, even though the ingredients are the same. They've done tests showing it. Guess what? There's no difference. And but they believe that there is a difference. They believe it to their core. And I forget, it's such a high number of what people will and how much more they'll spend on that. And they also, of course, Apple is another good example, right? They're saying they have built a community, like people that work. If you're an Apple person, like you can curse them, whatever, but they even said they'll change their chargers on us. I have so many chargers here right now. I'm always looking, oh, that's the wrong charger. It's like, it's very frustrating, but then, got to order my Mac, order my phone.
Well, think about why that is. So take no name Tylenol or store brand and Tylenol. Who do you hear from? Tylenol.
Yeah.
Who have you heard from for as long as you've been alive? Tylenol.
Yep.
These people aren't saying anything. They're not showing up to the party. They're just there as an alternative choice if you happen to, if you want to save money. So that's the difference, is these folks are spending money, understanding who we are, what we care about as people.
Yep.
And how the Tylenol is going to help us feel. or our kids? How's it going to help them feel better? Excuse me. And the other thing, so they're inviting us into a story. Tylenol is also showing us that they are consistent, and consistency breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds trust.
Yeah.
We trust Tylenol because they've always been there. So that's the difference too, is I tell people, I had like social media, for example, many people, unfortunately, still think in the manufacturing world, well, it's just Facebook. People don't care what we ate for lunch.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, you've got to tell yourself a new story, because that's old. It is it used to be 1-to-1, right? 1-to-1 salesperson. Well, now it's 1 to a gazillion. If that's your target audience, your target audience may be 100, but you can talk to all of them at one time. And the cost is so cheap in comparison to, flying your 1 or even 10 or 100 salespeople, which we need them. We need that face-to-face. And they're experts. And so I value salespeople. But think about it. When they're sleeping, these conversations are happening on behalf of you and them. So, I'm a fan of and it's an ongoing conversation too. That's the other thing, is some people have the misunderstanding that Facebook is for us to shout and put out messages about what we're doing and the awards we're winning and how great we are. And I say, but oh my God, remember, it's about engagement, right? So don't show up to the party and be the person that only talks about themselves. Be the person that shows up and listens. Like Gary Vaynerchuk, huge fan. And if any of you don't follow him, I highly recommend that you do. He said for the first 6 months, he was on Twitter years ago, running Wine Library for his dad, taking it from a $3 million business to a $60 million business in 5 years. Spent 6 months listening on Twitter and just answering people, chiming in on conversations.
Yeah.
I've never forgotten that. And I thought that's the power of social media is we've never had this before in our lifetime. So why wouldn't you take advantage of it?
And I've also heard from people that have said sometimes they do get leads for sales, and it's someone who's never commented, never liked. In fact, out of the blue, they pop up. Well, they didn't really pop up out of the blue. They are watching, they are listening. And that's the value of social. Because a lot of people saying, well, I'm not getting as many views. So I always look at I look at impressions, I look at engagement, but it's also the long game, right? And making sure your content, like you said, is that what are you doing because the higher the engagement, that's when I'm like, okay, that's great. Because people are engaging, they're commenting, and even like today. So that's a good segue. Let's go over back to the studio audience, because I want to zip through some comments, because we have some new people joined in, and we have quite a few comments. Just so everybody listening, I probably won't go through all of them because there's some networking going on, but I do want to, let's see who's, we have a shout out here because Mike said, great to see you last week in the D. Yeah, some of us were at the Injection Molding and Design Expo over in downtown Detroit, D-Town. Oh, Brian Goffenberg. Hello, Brian. Brian is here. Good afternoon. I know Brian from networking in the manufacturing ERP circles. And we have Russ Hedge. Hello, Russ. Now, Russ is like, I don't know if you know Russ, Allison, but he is a machine. He shows up. He's doing a lot of live shows. He is, he's an amazingly kind person as well. And he really likes to celebrate other people and is doing amazing work. So even though he's not technically in like manufacturing per se, he connects in this world, and he provides a tremendous amount of value when it comes to, for my brand of showing up. This is someone who knows how to show up. He's using the tools of LinkedIn Live, and what you said too is really bringing in other people as well and celebrating what other people are doing. So that's good. Good to see you as always. See you on Sunday. Yes. So we have that golf tournament. So that's kind of cool to see. We have some hellos back and forth. Yeah. And we have got it. Yep. Definitely. Allison and Ray, dynamic duo. Yes. Let me see. We have, yeah, Inger says, Ray is definitely a unicorn. Yes. He came when I was at, what trade show is that? It was in Chicago. PT Expo. And we walked the trade show floor together. Oh my goodness. That was, I can't tell. I thought I'm good on the trade show floor. Oh my God. I just wanted to just follow along him all day. I said, this is too much fun. He goes up to people. He asks questions. He's a curious person too. So, stories are so important for sure. Yes, Inger understands that. You should be on 60 minutes.
Nice.
That's funny. Yeah, sign me up. Bonnie says, yeah, collaboration. That's another.
Yes.
We talk about that too in terms of collaboration, marketing, sales, and operations. The other thing I think that we sometimes forget too is the value of bringing operations to the table and having everybody working together. And then Inger says, love it. The shit that scares you. She did a little asterisk. Didn't want to get banned or anything. Oh, yes. So we had, Ryan said, I had the pleasure of sitting next to Ray at dinner. So yes, Ray joined us for dinner in Chicago. And I mean, that was amazing.
You just never have a bad time with him.
No, he asks questions, listens. He's, he's one of those people and he's hilarious too. I mean, he came because, my what I often say is, I may not be your cup of tea, but I could be your shot of tequila. So he brings me the little bottle of tequila. So I can't drink it now. It's like, I'm going to treasure that, but okay, I may drink it.
Let's be honest.
I'm going to drink it. I'll put it in a shot. Yeah. Sharing the stories of people interviewing is the best. Yes. Whitney says failure is part of growth. Exactly. We all have failed and we all have fears. We just need to face them and do things. Mm-hmm. Yes. Inger and I have many talks about that. Even as I was getting ready for to go out to give my talk, I had tremendous imposter syndrome hit me the week before. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I going here? It's like, and people often don't see that because and I said, even before a live show, I get nervous. I'm like, okay, have I got everything ready? And,
right.
Even today, for those of you listening, it was storming when Allison first came on. So I had to run down and get a flashlight because I thought if the lights go out, I was going to have to go on a flashlight. Yeah. The show would go on. Okay. And Brian says, yep, you haven't tried and failed. You're not working on it. So true.
And you know what? I wanted to riff on something that you said a moment ago. I think the important part of bridging the gap between sales, marketing, and operations, and really including operations. And the thing that I have seen is when we do that, we come in and really include them and ask their opinion. And then they're part of, the enthusiasm just builds. And I always say marketing happens from the inside out. So I feel like when you get your team excited and they feel important, they feel that their opinion matters. They're excited about the brand and they're excited about being of service to customers and the impact that they have on them. It's just such a different energy. And people can feel the energy. We always say shit rolls downhill or it comes from the top down. I feel like really great marketing and energy, it can be electric and you can feel it from the top down and the inside out. So I think that's one of the huge benefits of bridging that gap.
Yes. And again, about listening then and following up, because if you're going to lean in and listen from the ground up, then you got to implement. I always say it's like surveys. Don't do a survey unless you're going to act on it. Because the worst thing is put out a survey and then no one knows what happens next. It's
right. And that happens all the time.
It happens a lot. Yes. Yeah. So we have the spirograph. Yes. We got to give and then Mike said, what is this spirograph? People that don't know it, you got to Google it. It's very cool. If we, and I like that Cynthia said she still does. It's one of those, great things. Definitely the most. Oh, thanks, Inger. Yeah. Well, and you know what? It's definitely people say, oh God, here comes Gail asking a question. Because sometimes before a project, I'm always like, okay, I got to ask these questions because it comes from life lessons. Mm-hmm. If you don't ask a lot of questions before you start on something, then you're going to come back and go, uh-oh, like I should have asked this. I needed to know more. So I always tell anybody that working with me too, I said, please ask me anything, text me, DM me, whatever before, like, don't go working on something and then a day later, wonder why there's going to be a problem at the end. So, okay. So we have Whitney says, tell yourself a new story. I love that. Definitely struggle with people holding on to old stories about social media. Oh yeah. I'm still hearing that one about people posting their food.
Yeah.
We have my cake's all good today, but one of the big takeaways, the brand is the brand. The non-brand is just an alternative. Okay. Yeah, that is, and like, I think what you said, Allison, about this is that, Tylenol has invested, just like clean. I mean, also that's the term. Even when you're taking the off brand, you call it
and the noun, like you become the thing.
You've become the thing. Yes, I hate spending time to respond to serve only for nothing to come of it. Yes, yes, yes. And then we have Katie has said, we heart Russ Hedge. Yes. And Katie, are you connected with Katie, Allison?
I don't think so.
Okay. You two should definitely connect too, because Katie is extremely passionate about manufacturing. She's also tremendous, has a good sense of humor, and we need more of that. I did a post with this. I said we need to, make manufacturing more sexy. We need to make manufacturing more fun, because I just had a talk with a newer client about this, and they're like, well, we do this. Like, I don't think we have stories. So I started interviewing them, and then I repeated back something, and he goes, oh, it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. I go, you just told me a story, and how one of your clients, like it was an OEM, had said why they wanted to work with them, because they had saved time and money. And they were able to adjust this part, and it made everything basically work better. That's a summation. So when I adjusted it to tell the story, it was like, oh, and this happens because of my background as a journalist. This happened even when I was working in newspaper. I'd call someone up and they go, often the best stories started this way. I'd sit down, they'd say, I don't know why you're interviewing me. I really don't have much of a story. And then I'd leave and go, oh my God, they have one of the best stories. This is why I love manufacturing, because there's so many untold stories.
Yes. And this is something that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and I think it ties in with this. Like you said, you run into a manufacturer and they go, yeah, we make this part, it's not very sexy. It's pretty much a commodity. I cannot tell you, when I hear somebody say that, the hair stands up on the back of my neck, and I say, oh, let's dig into that for a sec. Think about this. Are you a commodity, or do you want to be a specialty? Mm-hmm. And they say, yeah, but the thing we make is a commodity. And I said, so was water until it wasn't. So was coffee until it wasn't. So was fill in the blank until it wasn't. Taxis, they were just taxis until somebody created Uber. So, and gave it a specialized twist. So I think it's such a disservice that we do to ourselves when we fall into that, the abyss of mediocrity, and we just kind of go with we're vanilla. And I'm like you. I think we're really good at uncovering the substance, peeling back the layers of the onion. I always think about Shrek, having, 2 kids. How many times have we seen that? And it's peeling back the layers of the onion, because there is always something extraordinary in the middle, and it isn't like anybody else. Mm-hmm. There's only one you. There's only your family that started this business 50 years ago. Your granddad that bootstrapped, and grandma sold eggs out of the back of the station wagon to, pay the bills while we grew this business, because we created a product that didn't exist. No one else has your story, so why aren't you telling it? So I get so excited about that.
I love that you said, are you a commodity or specialty? Because when you think about it, can you imagine way back when someone said, let's put water in a bottle and sell it to people? Like, when you think about that, back then, someone must have said,
oh my God.
Okay, in Canada, we have the Tim Hortons and the same thing, drive-through coffee. Like it used to be. Can you imagine okay, you're going to get in your car, leave your house where you have a coffee maker to
And go spend $6.
Yeah, on a coffee. Like,
Mhm.
so and this is, it is so true that, and this is why I said, it's so important that you start telling your story, even if you think other people, because the water, right? Well, other people can put water in a bottle too. But if you start doing it and you start promoting it, and the same rules apply in manufacturing. You just have to start owning that story. And again, that's something we share, that we both believe in so strongly, is that idea of showing up and also emotion. Like, how do you make someone feel? Because it's not about pushing your product on someone. It's about sharing a story in a natural way.
Mhm.
That's what people relate to and why people want to work with you, right?
Yeah. Well, and think about it. I always say this to clients, and I'm guessing you do as well. When we're talking about strategy, or we're talking about an initiative, right? Let's say a trade show initiative, because they're planning on their trade show strategy for next year. I always start with, pardon me, how do you want those people to feel? Everybody looks at each other. They're like, I don't know. What? And I said, how do you want them to feel? I said, because most people, they've been to this trade show how many years in a row? They're walking the floor. I mean, it can be really daunting. So I start going through the psyche of what it's like. And I said that I've read just gobs of research, and every single time, the main thing that people say when asked, what is it that you're coming to this trade show for? Well, I want to find out what's new. So I said, what do you bring in that's new? Well, we don't really have anything that's new. So my point in sharing that story is, if you know, and it's true in life too, because I practically have a PhD in personal development at this point. I'm a work in progress. And I can tell you that when you know, and I got this from Danielle Laporte, by the way, I did not make it up. When you
Love
know
her.
how you feel, then you're going to be able to determine, what are you going to have to do in order to make that happen. So if you start that way with your clients, your customers, or prospective, customers, well, how do we want them to feel? Do we want them to feel worthy? Do we want them to feel appreciated? Do we want them to feel seen? Do we want them to feel what? So, excuse me, I think it's an important distinction.
Yep.
When a brand takes that mindset and takes the time to figure that out up front.
Water break for me too. We're both I want to do a shout out, because I think Brian, if he's still here, Brian Gignac, Cavalier Tool Manufacturing, they have rocked a few trade shows, and the last one they did, it's all about speed to market. A couple of things that we did, and full disclosure, I do work with them, so it's a case study. But one of the lines we had on the booth was that we build molds, and so when people walk by, that stood, again, simple, because people went, oh, we know what you do. Because sometimes you walk by booths and it's like, what?
Yeah.
And I walk by as a marketer going, I don't know exactly what they do. Now, in their booths, though, they often do themes. So they had speed to market. So they had Brian's Porsche, and it's an actual race car. And Brian, as the president of the company, is actually a race car driver. He actually races cars. So it wasn't like we just rented a car. It all tied in, because Brian often used this line. He says, I talk fast, I walk fast, I think fast, and then I added in, and we build molds fast, right? So it made sense. So people were drawn into the booth, but there wasn't a lot of heavy talk about, selling per se. It was about having conversations and again, talking with that emotion. That's what has provided them a lot of success too, because the sales team are great. They're there, they're engaging, and they will answer questions. And so what happens is people want to bring the problems to them.
Yes.
Because it's kind of a safe place, because they kind of walk in, there's this car, you can talk with the car, and then you can kind of nose around and ask a question without like, oh God, you're going to, tell me about the tool that you can build. Right.
Right.
So,
right.
Wow. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I know, man, there's so many other things we talk about, but I think we've hit upon a few things in terms of, because usually on my show I talk about things like transferable skills, which clearly that's something, Allison, you talked about, coming from the design world, now with the manufacturing masters and being able to kind of take all of these skills to help share them in manufacturing. The other area is around, showing up, which you do very well, and also encourage more manufacturers to do that. And showing up is about that, sense of emotion. Yeah, I was reading, so we'll get to the comments too in a minute. And then finally, curiosity, because asking questions and spending that time, that's one thing I think that's so important when manufacturers are looking at developing marketing plans, is that rather than, doing the old throw everything on the wall and see what sticks, is that take the time, interview your customers, do the research so that you can, show up and get ahead of the curve.
Show up effectively and
Yes.
meaningfully.
Yes.
That's such a difference than the old throw the spaghetti at the wall mindset, which worked beautifully for some folks. And I think that there was a point in time where that was perfectly fine. Try something new. And so my thought is, I'd rather see somebody spend, be a little more pragmatic in the beginning. Don't jump off the deep end and think you've got to spend just a crap ton of cash. Start smaller and show up and be more meaningful and memorable. That's going to get you farther than if you just, let's throw it out there and see what works. Don't waste your money.
Yeah. And there is so much data. And one of the areas we didn't get to talk about this as much, but for anybody that wants to, I would suggest you go back and listen to an earlier show where I interviewed Brian Leung about Google Ads and the power that's in Google search. The more that I'm really delving in and watching my own search and really noticing now more and more what's coming up. And I think for recruiting, for sales, Google search is such a resource to tap into. So I'll maybe try to drop that link again in the comments, or go back onto, and my YouTube channel has all previous shows. It will also have this one. So let's just quickly go through some of the comments, and then I'll come back and ask you how you exercise your curious brain. So that's usually how we try to end the show. So we have, let's see. So Cynthia said, shining a spotlight on the people that are directly involved in a company's success is what inspires me. Owners and managers should shop for personnel. It's all amazing. Yes, that is so key. Then she says, peeling the onion. Yes, that's, revealing so much about what's happening behind the scenes is key. Your story is your competitive edge. Oh, yes. You know what? It's your story. No one else, even if they try to repeat it, they can't, because they're not you. They can't do it. So it's, I always say that. It's like, even if you share what you're doing, no one else can be you. So as Dr. Seuss says, no one is youer than you.
Right.
PhD in person with you there. Yes. Oh, Damon is
he's my personal development buddy.
He is. Yeah. We could all do the three of us could do a high five on that one. Yeah. Makes sense. Yes. Is about having conversation and building relationships. Yes. 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 And Inger that is her area of special. She does a lot of work too in LinkedIn, does coaching with people in manufacturing to help, especially coming in at the ground level, really getting their page optimized. Like for the people at the beginner level, I strongly encourage, if you want to get some help, Inger will be able to help with that. And she does work with on my team as well. Brian says, sorry, you didn't win the raffle of the Porsche. Yeah, well, I wouldn't even be able to drive it though, unfortunately. It's like I don't drive stick shift, so I had to do it. But it was a beautiful car. People were asking about that if there was a raffle. Really appreciate this perspective on trade shows. We definitely place too much emphasis on lead sales and not enough on yes. And Whitney, I'd be, if ever you want to talk more about that, that is something that is an area that I've really, because I've spent time attending trade shows and also promoting them, marketing them. It really is about building relationships, and not, if you go into a trade show only to just, can you clobber people just to get leads? It may work if you have, people tried it with, getting big prizes and getting, people to drop in ballots, and it just, no, like offer something, like be there to answer questions and, do something innovative and interesting. But
Be
yeah,
genuine.
be genuine. Yeah. And so Inger does talk about Ubuntu, which means I am because we are, which this is, it's a great term. And it's what Allison, what you do, even with the manufacturing masters, that is a really good example of, when you bring in people in that type of group, the excitement you have of for manufacturers. So, okay, over to you. How do you exercise your curious brain?
I have learned I've been practicing meditation for many years now. I'm still not fantastic at it. I think I'm up to like 12,000 minutes, and you would think. But what I've learned from it is to quiet my mind, and that can create the space to have the new thoughts and the new ideas. The other thing for me is exercise and hiking. So it doesn't have to be a, Kilimanjaro or anything like that. It can just be a simple get outside in the sunshine and hike. And I'll just kind of talk through ideas as if I'm talking with a client. And all of a sudden, like, it's just like a bomb drops and I have all these amazing ideas. And the other thing is just through writing. It's through writing content. It's through, writing WTMFG and sending it out every 2 weeks. There are times when I sit down and I don't know what in the heck I'm going to write about. And I decided to honor my hero, Anne Handley, who is the queen of content, and make mine more like the more emphasis is on the letter than the news. And so I want to, show up and be honest and be transparent and really deliver, even if it's just a tiny nugget of value every 2 weeks. So I think in writing, getting ideas out, that's how I, that's how I develop my curiosity and creativity.
Cool. Well, Allison, thank you. This has been, the hour has flown by. Like, it's like, whoop, I was looking going, oh my goodness, there's so many other things we could talk about, but I think the main things we have addressed. And I really think the comment you made about, things like water taxis. If you look at other companies that have done, or other organizations have done, looked at things differently and then promoted it and started building, brand relationships. That's where the magic starts to happen. So thank you. I'm just going to meet you in the green room in just a few minutes. I'm just going to do my wrap up and I will see you in a minute. Wow. Well, that was great, Allison. Please make sure that you are following her on LinkedIn and stay tuned for that new podcast that's going to be Connect with Manufacturing Masters. Go check that out. There's so much information we can share and collaborate on. And I strongly encourage you to go look at what Allison is doing in terms of her social media. If anyone wants to know more information about how to sign up, suit up, and show up, you can find me here on LinkedIn. I have all of my previous shows on YouTube. I also have some fun over on TikTok, so you'll see some, even some recent ones from the trade show. I'm on Instagram and on Twitter. Twitter is the place that where I have spent a fair amount of time and met some amazing people, made some tremendous connections. I really love that platform as well. But what I often suggest when I'm working with companies, when they're looking at showing up, it's really about finding the platform where your audience will be. And also what is one platform that you can invest in? I often do recommend LinkedIn as a good starting point. So I hope that from today, you will have learned maybe even one small thing that you can take and carry forth back to your company, back to your brand, back to your business, and see how you can also work towards sign up, suit up, and show up, because that's where the magic can happen. And I will see you next week. We're here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to check out some trade show fun, last week I did live from the injection molding and design trade show floor. It's always fun doing live shows from a trade show floor. And I had some really interesting people talking, just pulled them in from the floor to talk. So that was exciting. And I am now going to say goodbye to everybody, and we will see you next week.